You'll probably play Profet. Honestly, I don't think you can really go wrong for any class. The only class you can go wrong with, I think, is Wretch. I think if you go Wretch, you're pretty much wasting a character that you're never going to come back to because the stats are going to be too unoptimal to make anything out of it. So if you want to reuse a character later down the road, you're probably going to delete your Wretch character. So the only class I wouldn't go for is Wretch, honestly. What Wretch is for the experience of the first playthrough? Yeah, I saw that vid, Shawarma. I kind of disagree because, like, at the end of the day, like, it's only really true for, like, the first 5 minutes because in all Souls games, like, you start, right, with whatever class you start with, and then you reach a merchant or you find some really good armor, like, very early on. It's like that with any Souls games. Just think of like Dark Souls, like, let's think of Dark Souls 3, which is the last big one. You know, you start with the Gundyr boss, and then after you beat Gundyr, you're at Firelink, and then boom, at Firelink you get the merchant, and you have like a full set of armor, and you can choose to play curved sword, dagger, halberds. There's like all kinds of choices. And I mean, you can go to Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, like all the Souls games have that. Like, you just reach a point very, very quickly in the beginning where you just can gear up as much as you want. So it's actually a myth that starting as Wretch, like, it's going to enrich your first playthrough, because that's not really true. You get all the gear you need within the first, like, 5-10 minutes. So it's not actually accurate. And not only that, by starting as a Wretch, you can't respec past the point you started with, and so you're really wasting your first character. You're not going to come back to use it. You're going to have to delete it because the points are unoptimal for any single, like, every build. Like, starting as a Wretch is unoptimal for any build you can make. You'll probably just make quality build for your first playthrough to use most weapons. I think this is the sound decision. That's what I'm going to be doing as well, Castle. I feel like this is what makes the most sense, because to me, the first playthrough means experience as much as possible, right? Try as many things, as many new things as possible. To me, that's what the first playthrough is all about. And I feel like you're going to get a better shot at doing this with a quality build, I think. And as much as I would really like to try some magic and spells as well, and the Souls games history, magic has always been more on the easy side for the PvE. Like, it's much easier to cheese, you know, whatever enemy is in front of you by just casting spells from a safe distance. And so I'm always trying to stay away from magic on the first playthrough. I don't mind, you know, trying it afterward, but I try to stay away from magic on the first playthrough because it's a bit on the easy mode side. And I'm looking to experience all the, you know, nitty-gritty mechanics and have a challenging first experience. So I try to stay away from magic, but with all that being said, we definitely want to experience what magic has to offer, though, for sure. So this is probably going to be like a second playthrough type of deal. Let's see here what you guys had to say. Endurance will be so OP, there's no point to not go for it. That's not true, actually. And in all Souls games, when you make a character, right, you try to stay under a certain level, like say 125, because you want to plat meta, for instance. I mean, if you don't want to stay at a level, this conversation is pointless, because you can always level forever until you reach 99 in every stats. So we won't go there. But if you're trying to build under a certain level, whether it's 90, whether it's 120, 125, 60, doesn't matter. You always have to sacrifice something in order to gain something. And the two main stats you always sacrifice points into are endurance and vitality. And so it makes sense to mix the two together. And yeah, you'll still probably want to sacrifice some of it, depending on the build you're making. Because perhaps you want to make a build, like, we don't know what's good in Elden Ring. Perhaps sorceries are really good, and perhaps strength weapons are really good. Just making something up here. But perhaps those two are really good, and you're trying to make a build that has a bit of both stat investment into your build, and you can't fit it because you don't have enough point. Well, you're gonna have to cut back on certain points on your build, and most likely you're gonna default to cutting on some endurance points. That's just how it goes. All right, let's see what else you guys had to say. But the very build starts at level 7, Wretch start at 1. I mean, you can do the math though. They all have the same points value. Just do the math. It's just that you can't go like when you respec your stats, you cannot go like lower than 10 for wretch, whereas the other classes you can go as low as, say, for the vagabond it's going to be, you can go as low as 7 for arcane. So specific classes are better like spec for different builds. We don't know exactly for which builds exactly. We only know for sure, we like that's the thing, we only know for sure that wretch won't be good at anything. Because it has like a plain blanket for stats that is not going to be optimized for anything, and so you're going to get rid of it as soon as you want to get into like making proper builds. That's why I really would discourage people to start with wretch. And it's not even challenging, like I was saying, like you get really good starting gear in the first 5 or 10 minutes anyway, so it's not even about challenge either. Will arcane end up getting some attention? You get resistance from debt, and I wonder if it will affect PvP. Honestly, Shawarma, I'm asking myself the same question. We don't know how useful or how useless arcane will be. That's going to be like one of those questions that we're going to have to play and wait for like 5 days and a half to figure that out. But I mean, soon we'll get our answer. Do you think we should lower the meta level since the stat got removed? I think we're going to all start at 125 Rex simply because it's the tradition. Actually, I have a vid about that coming up in, what is it, next 2 days or something like that. Prisoner seems to be a good option to play melee and spellcaster. I agree. I fully agree there. I think Prisoner might be a very good class to start with if you want to experience a bit of both on your first playthrough. To me, I feel like that makes a lot of sense too.